Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. It is great to have you with us. We are going to spend some time this week talking about running in the woods and doing it better than anybody in the conference in a lot of places around the country. Robert Gary is the cross-country and track and field head coach here. How you doing, my friend?
Great. Lots going on this weekend, but I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this is a busy weekend. We were just talking before we started recording the show that, let's see, you've got it's Hall of Fame weekend, so we're going to be talking about Chris Bork here in just a minute. Your only home meet of the regular season is this weekend, and then, of course, coming up in November, you'll be hosting the SoCon, but I think we've arrived at the conclusion the best thing for you to do right now is stay out of your house.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. On Thursday night, we're hosting a VIP dinner with some donors and upper-level administration. So, my son and I aren't even allowed on the main floor from this point on the rest of the week, I'd say.
Before we even talk about the season, before we talk about defending 11 straight championships, let's talk about the upcoming Hall of Fame because cross-country track and field is well represented and by no one greater than Chris Bork, who has become such an integral part of the success of your program.
Yeah, Chris's kind of foresight way back in 2005 when he started the endowment. 7 years before I had even looked at the job opening and the position. Had the foresight to kind of see where college athletics, probably the direction they're headed, and regardless of what people think about it and where it is, I think the whole idea of sustainable funding has really taken hold at a place like Furman, and it's been not only his financial generosity, but also when we sit down and kind of strategically game plan what's important to focus on, what's important to fundraise for. A lot of those things, Chris is really valuable strategic partner, I think, in those things, and so it's been very helpful.
I was asked to record voiceovers, basically recounting the biographies of all 5 of the Hall of Fame inductees. And the thing that I find most fascinating about Chris is he has been where your kids are. He has been, and in fact, he's been in some places where most of your kids haven't been because he came to Furman, didn't have a scholarship, earned his way into a scholarship, and all the things that ultimately led him to the success that he had. So, it's one thing to have deep pockets, and you appreciate that. But, I still use this. I don't know if the kids do, but they used to call it street cred. He's got the street cred when he talks about running cross country and this program. He is coming from a level of experience that not a lot of people have.
Yeah, and I think for the kids on the team, that's exactly right. The way that he grew up, his knowledge of the sport, what's a good time, what it probably took to get that time, and then ultimately, him and Andrea, both his wife, through the Bork Foundation, as well as his whole family, they're also, while they want to see excellence, they want to see Furman up there with, competing against, the Power 5 programs, the best programs in the country. They want that pursuit of excellence. They're probably, they're equally, if not even more so, driven just by the idea of opportunity. People that, couldn't afford to come to a place, like Furman, are able to stay on, be able to be part of a program, with a good distance focus. It's a bit of a niche, that we've created, but certainly one that they're very, very set on, supporting. And I think the same goes for the lessons he tries to teach me just about running any organization. Obviously, we're not a huge $1 million company, but, dealing with people, setting goals, setting a mission, all those crossovers are really invaluable. And I think it's helped us kind of keep our eyes on the prize during, all this change that's occurring, all over the country in the NC2A.
I don't like to correct or challenge coaches on the air, but can you really call something a niche that is perennially now nationally ranked and has won 11 straight conference championships and have runners who compete and become All-Americans. I mean, is it really a niche anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there's still always choices to make, and the big schools, we don't have as as much a national name recognition maybe as some other people all over the country. So as we continue to grow, I think ultimately a little part of people that do want to come to Furman do want to do it in a small school setting, with big school resources, with exciting goals. But yeah, we always there's a reason why we always have shirts Furman versus everybody, and I think that's certainly a little part of it.
Kind of like Dabo Sweeney up the street going, it's still little old Clemson, right? Yeah,
Right.
kind of
Yeah,
little
exactly. Yeah.
little old Furman.
Yep.
Tell me about the stakeholders dinner. I know that's something that you guys have done for a number of years now as a way to, I guess, in one sense, say thank you, in another sense, keep everybody completely up to date what's going on in the program. How important has that become to what you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of, we're certainly really busy this weekend. The Hall of Fame kind of took the place of our Friday night dinner, but I consider our first home meet really the start of our regular season. We had a very small meet last weekend. It went great, but this is the weekend where, we get almost every parent to come back and see their kids, and also just kind of recap the previous year and forecast kind of upcoming goals. So we do our championship ring ceremony. President Davis comes, Jason Donnelly, a lot of donors. We have a lot of team awards. We just kind of backfill and kind of put a cap on last year while also just kind of forecasting exactly, what we hope to do and how we're going to go about doing it. I think it's very informational for the, parents to kind of see it. We got our biggest freshman recruiting class ever, and I think every single one of the parents, are coming. So it's a great meet, but we'll have a luncheon afterwards for our stakeholder for, the thing. And this year we're also really fortunate to have 3 of our, new Hall of Fame people there with their families as well. So, it's a great kind of checkpoint of the season for us.
And oh, by the way, when you talk about forecasting what's coming up, both squads, the men and the women, have 12 runners coming back. So, I mean, there's no lack of expectation there.
Yeah. I think we, I think not only at the conference level, but the national level, we always want to, we want to defend our title, both genders, and certainly being at home this year and a good special group of seniors. We certainly want them to kind of go out and then also we want both programs qualifying for the NCAA cross country meet. And we feel like this year we have 2 programs that both could finish the season, inside the top 20, if not the top 15, in the country. And when you start doing that with both genders, that starts to be some very rarefied air.
Yeah, in preseason, the women were ranked 24th nationally, number 3 in the Southeast region. So, again, that speaks to respect that you've gotten in the sport from a national sense and also the expectations.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, our women's team was an automatic qualifier last year. We lost only one woman in return, Bethany Graham to the lineup, who's a 2-time All-American. Arguably, she could be up there, be as high as our number 1 runner. And so we're probably a little bit underranked, on the women's side for sure. So, but that's a little bit of a, chip on the shoulder as we enter the season as well. But I know the women have a plan to do just as well as last year, and then improve kind of on their NCAA finish with women that are a year older and got to experience it last year.
So you experience you have coming back. You also said it's a huge freshman class. So how do you put it all together?
Well, we're not a program that automatically redshirts people, but, as deep as our team in it and as good as they are kind of at the top, one of the things we are going to try to do is really, redshirt almost all of our incoming freshmen. But they're at practice every day. They have meets the same days that, the varsity team is going off to meet. So what we want is them to really learn, as much as they can from these senior classes and these older teams that we have this year so that, they know that, the expectation, will almost always be the same. That's a slide I haven't changed in 3 or 4 years, just as far as what we're shooting for, as far as defending our title and, the SoCon, making NCAAs, and then finishing as high as possible at the national meet. And then we kind of do it all over again, come track season.
Robert Gary from Cross Country Track and Field, our guest on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. You talked a bit about the women's team. What about the men's team?
Dylan Schubert had a tremendous breakout year last year. He's always been really fantastic at cross country. He's been 11th in the country, at the NCAA championships, but last year really put together a heck of a, track season as well. Unfortunately, after he won the regional championship at NCAAs, he broke his foot. And so he did not have the summer, that he'd probably want. So he'll get a late start to the season, but that does kind of open the door to make sure that our pack is really up and running. That second pack is kind of led by Carson Williams, Williams, who finished his spring season at the Olympic trials in the steeplechase. He was an individual qualifier for the N2A meet. So we got a really nice 1-2 punch, for sure. And so far in practice, we've had a great group of guys that have been kind of right with Carson too. So when you have 1 or 2 front runners that we really feel, should be all Americans this year for us, you start doing that and you're already kind of starting at, 15th in the country, and just got to work on our back end. Some of these guys, some of our sophomore classes finally kind of turned the corner, and they've kind of jumped up to the national level last spring too. So we're excited about where the men's program is. Again, I think probably a little bit underranked, but that's what we got to deal with sometimes being at a smaller school. But nice thing about our sport is we're getting pretty close to the time of year where there's not a lot of subjectivity. It's just who beats who, and so that's the part of the season that Furman teams enjoy the most.
That's a great thing about athletics. When it's done right, you can do all the speculation, all the preseason, all the conjecture you want, but ultimately it's going to be decided on the field or inside the competition.
Yeah, and both of our programs expect for us to hit those goals. I mean, that's why they came here for starters, but they also look around the locker room. They know what kind of firepower we have and who's doing what, who had, that kind of summer that they wanted. And I would say, the last 2-3 weeks of training have been as dialed in as any 2 or 3 weeks we've had in the last 13 years. So we're certainly not sitting back or thinking that we've arrived at a certain level, working just as hard, if not harder, as we always do.
You and I have talked about this before, but I think it's worth revisiting. Your resume is astounding, Olympian, and all of your experience with USA Track and Field and everything else. The way your sport has advanced from the time you were a runner to now, the times and how they've gotten better, it is a testament to what?
Kind of depends who you talk to. I know that there's a combination of, great shoe technology, all these fast tracks that have been designed. I also just think it's kind of the tearing down of barriers of sorts. What we used to think was good has just been blown past, and now kids are great at recalibrating. I think sometimes when people say this generation blah 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 not competitive, kids are still competitive. They still want to be challenged. They still want to rise to the level of expectation. And in our sport, like I said, it's pretty simple. I think there's no wonder that when Roger Bannister first broke the 4-minute mile, it was inside a year there were over 300 people that broke 4 in the mile. So sometimes it's just a mental barrier of knowing what's good. That's why I like to, tell these guys it's shoes and all these other things just to protect my PRs from some of theirs. But, the fact is, it is a lot denser at the top now than it used to be. Just how competitive it is, an influx of, older athletes, all this transfer portal, foreign athletes, a variety of things or whatever. But at the end of the day, we feel like we have absolutely, everything we need, no ceiling over our head to be as competitive with anybody else in the country.
And then I think you also would have to throw in training, nutrition,
sure,
those kind of things that have changed over the years, right?
Yeah. And also just the number of people, just how tight it is. We used to have 1 person, 2 people that maybe broke 4 in the mile, indoors. And now I think last year we had almost 80, total. So, it's just a matter of density. It's a little bit tighter at the top, but kids always rise to it. They like the competitive nature of it. And while it is harder, it's also, it's exciting to run these fast times.
Visiting with Robert Gary on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics, talking about this incredibly successful cross-country program, 11 straight men's and women's titles in the SoCon, so trying to keep that string going. And you will be hosting the SoCon meet in November, which gives you a rare second meet, but this weekend is normally the only time that you host a meet, and it's really turned into an event, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just the running of it. I'm talking about people coming in and.
Oh yeah. I think especially this year with the Hall of Fame and the stakeholder. Sometimes I get caught up in all the management of the stuff, and I kind of forget about we do have a race to run and a team, but both genders will run a 6K. So for the women, that's their N2A distance. The men, it's still kind of an under distance race at 6K, and got some good teams kind of coming in. We're excited to really get some pack running, and like I said, on both sides, we run. Everybody in the program runs. A couple that are running redshirted. They're unattached, but everybody else, we run everybody who's healthy right now. So we are sitting a couple that we're going to wait to open up a little bit later in the season. But after this weekend, we really get on to the 2 big Wisconsin Invitationals, and then we're at championship season. So if you want a chance to kind of come out and see us, we'd love to have support of the community out there. We get the other coaches at Furman do a tremendous job of getting their teams out there, and watching us perform, and I know our kids absolutely love it.
Who are some of the other schools that are going to be here running on campus this weekend?
Southern Wesleyan, the Citadel, VMI, a couple of the SoCon teams that want to obviously kind of see the course. Charleston Southern's coming over. So, some smaller schools, but, we're excited to kind of open up, and we really work on, going out hard and really kind of getting calloused so we're ready to go when it comes time for the Nutty Comb meet, which is almost always the biggest invitational in the country.
So all of the heavy hitters will be there
in
Wisconsin?
Yeah, I would guess probably 30 of the top 40 ranked teams in the country will be at that one.
So that's a pretty good measuring stick.
Yeah. I mean, it's the closest thing really we have to the NCAA championships. After that, meets are competitive, but there's not that many great teams, in one spot.
So is that an event that you point to? It's not quite in the middle of your fall schedule, but it's very close. Is that kind of an event you point to that, hey, we want everybody healthy, we want everybody hitting on all cylinders so we really know where we stand? Yeah,
I mean, it's a great time. I mean, qualifying for NCAAs is probably too complicated to even start trying to explain to people. I barely understand it myself, and I was on the committee who constructed it, 20 years ago. But, it's nice. You get points, you beat teams, blah, blah, blah. But, cross country, track, track and field in general, it's always the end of the season that you're measured on. It's always that, being ready on the right dates. So for us, being ready to go at the regional championships, being ready to go at the Southern Conference Championship, to defend our title and advance to the NCAA meet. Those are the two ones that we circle on our calendar, and then 2 minutes after we cross the line at regionals, it all becomes the NCAA meet.
Yeah, so you can find the full schedule at FurmanPaladins.com and navigate to either the men's or the women's cross-country page and check out the schedule there. But the Furman Invitational this week, Robert mentioned on September 27th, Friday, the Nutty Comb, Wisconsin Invitational in Madison, Wisconsin. They'll be on October the 11th in Charlotte at the Royals Cross Country Challenge, and then back to Wisconsin in Madison on October 19th for the pre-nationals, and then November 2nd, after a meet at USC Upstate on November 2nd, the SoCon Championships, and then that's when things start getting really interesting, right?
Yeah, real serious time arrives then.
So what do you want people to know about this weekend?
I think, along with Chris Bork, too, we also have two of our really Mount Rushmore athletes, the ones that, in the beginning of the time that Coach Rita and I got down here. Ali Bihalski was actually the very first recruit call that we made, here, very first recruit that came onto campus for an official visit, very first recruit to commit. So, she really was kind of a catalyst for, everything we've accomplished. And she continues to be a tremendous runner in between there. She's been as high as fourth at the Olympic trials. She's been several time, obviously All-American with us. She was about 5 meters short of being a NCAA champion here, and she's someone we certainly revere. And then on the men's side too, Troy Reeder, who he was here at the same time, was a steeplechaser. First All-American in the outdoor track, steeplechase for us. Is when he joined the team. So having those two go into the Hall of Fame along with Chris, it really is kind of a great turning point and something. Chris has obviously been involved, but it's people like Ali and Troy that in all honesty wouldn't be here without Chris Bork's kind of vision and support for this program. And so really looking forward to a fantastic weekend, having all these people here and a home meeting.
It's one of the things I love about college athletics at this level, because we see it going crazy everywhere else at the Power 4 level. Done right, this is what college athletics is supposed to be, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, even from opportunity to roster spot, I'm sure there's a cutthroatness at other schools, but, I think student athlete welfare, looking out for kids, kind of continuing the mission of athletics, Obviously, I just shaved. I'm much older than I probably look today, but in another 3 days, I'll be looking like I'm 52 years old, as we're going. But this is how intercollegiate athletes has always been. It's been an extracurricular. It's been a enhancement to the college experience, and not getting bogged down in a lot of those other things. So when we have updates and meetings about stuff, I love it, because Jason's basically like, hey, we know our mission, we continue on. I know there's little nuances to different sports, but at the end of the day, we offer up something at Furman of great care with small school and big school resources. But, just the mission of academics is paired with athletics is something that I don't think we're ever going to get away from at this university for any of our sports.
Right. So the Hall of Fame induction ceremony for Furman at large is Friday night. And then the Furman Invitational is Saturday. Women go off at 9:15. The men go off at 10 o'clock, right?
Yep. Yep. And then we go right into our stakeholder lunch after that. So and then the football game after that. So busy weekend.
Well, they say being busy keeps you out of trouble.
That's true. Yep. Yep. And when you work with your wife, yeah, there's nowhere to hide.
Hey, well, and that's one of the things I tell people all the time. If my wife ever wants to know where I am, all she has to do is look at the Furman schedule or the Greenville Drive schedule, and she knows exactly where I am and can tune in to make sure that I'm there. So there's something to that. Hey, Robert, as always, man, it is great talking with you. Thank you for your time. I know this is a busy time for you and for Rita and everybody else, but it's also a time to celebrate what has been just a program of continuing excellence here at Furman. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate everything you do for all the sports.
All right, that is this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Thank you to Robert Gary for joining us. We'll be back again next week with another guest as we continue to let you know what's going on, oddly enough, inside Furman Athletics. For Robert, all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott. Say God bless you. So long, everybody.